Rick Revel, Mr. History, brought to you in part by Dixie Gun Works in Union City, Tennessee. The land between the lakes covers such a vast area, it takes 2 states to contain it. Located in Kentucky and Tennessee between the Cumberland and Tennessee rivers, the recreational area stretches over 171,000 acres. On a year-round basis, thousands of people enjoy nature's beauty in the land between the lakes. Virtually every outdoor activity you can think of can be done here. But on today's episode of History Highway, we're going to venture back to a day when the region was occupied by humble farmers who would eventually become victims of manifest destiny. Before this region became known as land between the lakes, it was known as the land between the rivers. And way before Eminent Domain took this land from the farmers and all those who lived in the area, some called it paradise. We're gonna drive in every day, and somewhere along the way, there's a road sign with a story from the past. History is everywhere, and I'm gonna take you there. So buckle up tight, we're going there real fast. So take a ride. To the middle and I'm really shaking. It doesn't matter if you're a reenactor who loves the smell of black powder in the morning on the battlefield, or a collector who admires the craftsmanship of a well-made weapon of old. Dixie Gun Works has a Pedersoli just for you. And not only does Dixie Gun Works have a warehouse full of Pedersoli reproduction firearms, they have an incredible collection of antique firearms. Inside the pages of their huge catalog, you will find gun parts, shooting accessories, reenactor clothing, camping supplies, and even some big guns if you like to burn a lot of powder. Dixie Gun Works is located in Union City, Tennessee, but for your convenience, visit our online store at www.dixiegunworks.com or call 1-800-238-6785. The Tennessee Valley Authority was formed in 1933 by President Franklin Roosevelt. Its main mission was to control flooding and improve farming conditions throughout the Tennessee Valley. In the beginning, like most government programs, the intentions were good, but the end results were tragic for many. Some of TVA's irrigation and row cropping techniques turned poor farmers into farmers who were making money. The tragedy began when some of those same farmers, years later, were asked to sell their property for pennies on the dollar, just so the government could build a dam and flood their property. My next guest, David Johnson, has written a book on this very subject, and he had invited me to join him near Calvert City, Kentucky, at the Lake House Inn on Sled Creek, which is close to the northern part of the LBL region.
The reason that they had the idea of building the dams originally was to control flooding. That's what it was about.
And we talk about that earlier in the show. Because when TVA, if you want to call it propaganda, or their newsreels, they used to do a lot of newsreels that showed in the movie theaters. And that's how they promoted it. They were showing how the Tennessee River
was always flooding.
Always flooding. Right. That's how they sold it.
And the farmers and the people who lived here, they said that makes no sense. You're going to flood land to control flooding? That made no sense to them.
Never made sense to me.
That's why they said they just didn't believe it would ever happen. Okay. But when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, then that was the triggering event for when we're going to build these dams so we can have cheap electricity produced.
Right.
And TVA stepped in because they were familiar with making electricity. So that's really, if that hadn't happened, the dams might not have gotten built.
True. Very true.
And so the result of that was...
Took a trigger event to make it happen.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
To push it, all that way. And so then what people couldn't believe would happen is that the government would then take their land from them, as it was going to be flooded anyway. It was going to be flooded, and so the government would offer them money for their land. That sounds really nice, and it was nice, except for the fact that whatever amount of money they were given for their land here, and the bottom land that was along these rivers was some of the most productive farmland in the United States. And so they couldn't take the amount of money that they were given for their land here, go across the river and buy another amount of land to continue their life.
Yeah.
It wasn't enough money to do that.
Right. The land he's speaking of, that was the bottom land next to the river, we talk about the delta a lot.
Right. Yes.
And the delta area, we talk about how rich and fertile the soil is next to the Mississippi. The Tennessee River had that same effect.
Right.
And so it was just...
The flooding was a good thing.
Right.
For that reason.
Yeah. That settlement sediment that came in, it made the land very rich. Right. And it grew great crops.
Right, it did. If I didn't like the offer that I was given for my land,
correct,
I could meet with a board of 3 men. And when I went to the board and told them I wanted whatever amount I wanted, they would cut the original offer in half. And there was you couldn't argue that.
Negotiations over.
No negotiation. And so these people their life was ripped from them, and they were given no choice, but they had to leave. And some of them were taken off their land at gunpoint. Some of them were jailed. Some of them were picked up and put in vehicles and driven across the river and put on a ferry and moved across. And the other part of this that people, I think, that kind of allowed it to happen more quietly is it took place over 30 years.
Right.
If they had decided to do that,
the gradual boil
in 1 year time, to move everybody off the land, because in my estimate, there were probably 20 to 25,000 people. That's David's estimate, how many people were living between the rivers.
Yeah.
And so if there had been 25,000 people moved off the land in 1 year, there'd have been it'd have been in the news, people heard about it, probably. But it took place, there were 5 different times that they did incremental moves of people.
I know y'all heard the old story about the frog. You put him in a pot of water, put him on the stove, and as the water heats up and begins to boil, by degrees, that frog is starting to cook and doesn't even realize it.
Right.
So by degrees, over a gradual period of time, you have cooked the frog alive. And that's exactly what happened, David, is over that 30-year period, they had no idea they've been snookered.
Right.
And that's exactly what was happening.
Right.
I mean, stories about literally a little old grandma sitting on the front porch with her double-barrel shotgun saying, "You're not going to remove me," reminds me of Granny Clampett on the Beverly Hillbillies.
Yes.
But literally that type of scene.
It was.
Bulldozers pulling up to the house.
Yes.
And marshals are removing her body, removing her from the porch.
There's one story of one story that I read about that I'm sure happened many times.
Right.
There was a woman who lived by herself, farmed by herself. She was just single. And when she was older, they kept trying to get her to accept their offer for her land to move off, and she kept refusing them. And one day, 2 government men showed up, and she came out on her porch and challenged them at the car, said, "What are you doing here?" And they told her why they were there, and she took her double-barrel shotgun and blew out the windshield of the car. Mm-hmm. They chose to leave. after
Quickly.
Granny did that, right?
Right.
They came a year or a few years after that. She was asked to meet someone in Benton, Kentucky, to discuss again the proposition. And so she agreed because she knew a couple of the people that had suggested she go and do that. So she went, and she was there on the right time, the right day, and everything. And so she kept waiting for the other people to show up. They never showed up. They never showed up. So she got back in her vehicle, and she took, I don't know, an hour or so to get back home. And as she topped the hill, the bulldozers were just finishing burying what was left of her house that they'd burned while she was gone. And all everything that was in the house, all the memories, all gone.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened a lot of times.
Because they became enemy of the state. And that's kind of, hopefully, we're going to describe what eminent domain is after this segment, to kind of give you an idea of how they were able to do this to the individuals that lived there. And they still do it to this very day, David.
Oh, yeah.
All across the United States.
Oh, yes.
If the highway wants to go through and they
Yep.
want, and your house is sitting there, eminent domain means you're going to move, we don't want you there.
Right.
Because the highway's going to be there. And that's what happened with LBL.
Yes.
They literally said, I'm sorry, but you're out of here.
Right.
Whether you want to be or not.
Didn't matter.
And you're
Didn't matter.
4, 5, 6 generations deep of
Yes.
people living on this property.
Yes.
They're gone.
Right. And so there are stories told about people, especially older people, that just this is all they knew.
Mm-hmm.
And so they rather than leaving, they committed suicide.
Wow.
There are stories of people that when they got to the other side, when they did move, they never could rebuild their lives again. Mm-hmm. And lots of depression. Now we would say lots of depression. It was very traumatic. I've talked to people who were children when they were forced off. They remember.
Right.
They remember being forced off and everybody crying and everybody just being so upset about having to load up what they had and leave everything else behind.
Many years ago, Discovery Park of America was nothing more than a dream for Robert and Jenny Kirkland. Located in Union City, Tennessee, this world-class museum and learning center is second to none. It doesn't matter if you're a teacher planning a class trip, a parent looking for a vacation stop, or an individual who loves history and science, Discovery Park of America is the place for you. From days gone by to the future and beyond, there is something for everyone, no matter your age or point of interest. Since the year 2013, well over 1.3 million visitors have visited our 50-acre, $100 million facility. What used to be a peaceful cornfield in the countryside is now a state-of-the-art destination for you and your family. For more information, go to www.discoveryparkofamerica.com.
From the pens of the Kennedy twins comes a new literary composition. The renowned authors of The South Was Right and a dozen more publications have become known for their zeal for conservatism and Southern heritage preservation. In their new book, Jefferson Davis' High Road to Emancipation and Constitutional Government, Donnie and Ron Kennedy hold nothing back. They're quick to point out Davis's high road approach to emancipation, while Lincoln chose the low road. Never afraid of controversy and to go against the grain of the politically correct, the Kennedy twins expose how our constitutional republic of sovereign states has been transformed into a deep state of federal government. To get your copy of the book that defends President Davis and the South, go to www.kennedytwins.com. That's www.kennedytwins.com. Briefly tell me what are the character names that you work with in the book. What are the character names?
Okay, so the main character in my book, there's a shameless look at the
the
front cover,
please,
right?
Please do.
So the heroine, okay, the main character is a female, okay. Her name is Emma Sue Martin, okay, and she, her mother is born. She's born in 1900.
Okay.
So that's where that story starts. She's born in 1900. Her mother dies in childbirth.
Okay.
Okay. She's an only child, and her father never remarries, and decides that he wants to help prepare Emma Martin to take over the land someday. That he wants her to learn everything there is to know about running this, 500-acre farm that has been in the family for 6 generations.
How close to the river were they in your scenario?
So
in your story?
they were close to the center, close to the middle of
the peninsula.
Of the peninsula.
Wow.
Right.
And still, Immanent Domain got them.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it follows Emma's life and the challenges that she faced as a woman, trying to farm and gain the respect, and she indeed did gain the respect of everyone in the peninsula. Everyone knew Emma Martin.
Right.
Knew her to be a woman of sound judgment and good advice, and she was the first person that bought a tractor.
Right. That's a good story.
So
like
she was
that.
the first person.
Progressive. She
was willing, because
everybody's using the mule or the horse.
Right.
So she got the tractor. I like it. That's good.
So she does meet a man who actually worked for TVA. And
there's a twist.
Yes. And it was very, very prickly because of who he represented and who she was,
right?
Kind of a thing. So there's a little bit of there's some tension into the story.
Gotcha.
So that people can see how that played. I won't tell that, but how that plays out is important to the story. It's not a story that could have a happy ending.
There's no way.
There's just no way it could be a happy ending. And the closer I got to writing the story, the more it felt like I was telling the story of the Titanic. And so I know this is how this is going to end. And if anybody knows anything about this area, they know how it's going to end too.
That's right.
It's not going to be singing happy trails. It's just not. And so this story doesn't have a happy ending. My book doesn't have a happy ending because what happened to those people didn't deserve to have a happy ending.
Right.
I wanted it to be real.
Yeah.
In that way.
Well, speaking of real, and we're going to jump now back to more of a historical part of it. This starts in the 30s of the rumors going around, but it was not until the 60s, late 60s, that the final nail in the coffin was driven. Now, as we talked earlier, David was mentioning that we were talking about the thing they sold, how they were selling it. Well, there's floods, and all these floods, we're going to keep this from happening. Well, guess what? Where does the floods affect? If you ever go to the LBL, you'll understand there's a lot of high ground in the LBL.
Right.
Lots of
it. You don't realize it's high ground because it's all the ground that's showing.
That's showing now.
Right.
But there's a lot of high ground, which was very much high ground back before they built the lakes and flooded everything.
Right.
And so here's homes in the center of the peninsula.
Right.
So pick up there and talk about the process of them and how they got rid of the rest of the residents.
And Kentucky Lake was built because that's Kentucky Dam was built first, which created Kentucky Lake. And so they factored into where the floodwaters would come to, and so all that land was going to be gone. Then they had to buy an easement along the edge of the river, the lake, and so there's that land is gone. Then they're going to build a dam on the Cumberland River, Barkley Dam. Same thing again, the floodwater plus all the easement. And so it kept creeping up, as you described. It kept creeping up, okay? Until all that's left is this strip down the middle. And one day there was some government officials flying across the area, and they looked down, and suddenly, just by looking down and seeing the visual of that from way up above.
Is this 1968?
This is probably 1963.
63? Okay.
60. If I
some of that
that's close. Okay. 63, and suddenly it dawned on them that what they'd done in allowing these lakes to be built is they created this tiny, thin, in their minds, tiny, thin strip of land that was so poor, the ground was so poor, it couldn't support farmers. And so there's like, well, then what are we going to do with what's left?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's turn it into what it looked like before anybody ever lived there. Let's make it a natural area. I get that.
Yeah,
that was what they wanted to do.
It's a good sales pitch.
It sounds good, right?
Good sales pitch.
It sounds good. This is the way it used to look.
Yeah.
And that's that bill took a little bit of time to pass through, but then it finally did. John Kennedy was the one that signed that.
Gotcha.
That was the president that signed that. And the target date for when, number one, everybody had to be moved out, and all the structures that were left, they had to be destroyed too. They didn't want anything left. I mean, nothing left. And the target date was 1968.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, they didn't get everything. They wanted to destroy everything, but they didn't get everything. There's a few things, places that were unintentionally left. St. Stephen's Chapel Church is one. My wife and I have been to it.
Yeah.
It was built in around 1900 by German immigrants.
Wow.
And when you go to it, it was very difficult to find. But when we did arrive at it, I understood why it didn't get destroyed, because you had to look hard to find it.
It's remote.
It was sitting up on just a knoll, and the land dropped off every direction. The road that went to it originally was underwater.
Gotcha.
And so, and that church is still standing. On the 100-year anniversary of it, volunteers went back to the house, to the church, painted it, shored it up a little bit, and the doors are, you can go into it. It's got about 8 pews in it. It's a little tiny church.
Is this on the Cumberland or the Tennessee side?
It's on the Cumberland side.
Cumberland side.
Up on the way up, very close to the north end.
East side of the peninsula.
Yes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And there's graves there. And so there were a couple of places like that. Another place that was left was the house of the last person living in the land between the lakes. He was a World War II veteran.
He was one of the holdouts.
Yes.
I remember you mentioning that earlier.
He was one of the holdouts. When he came back from World War II, my best estimate is today we would say he had PTSD when he came back.
Right.
He became a hermit. He stayed to himself. People have personally told me that they remember their parents stopping at his house to check on him. He would slip a paper right under the door about what he might need from the store, or they would ask him a question.
Hermit, a true hermit.
He was.
Wow.
The government kept trying to get him to leave, of course, right? And he refused to leave. We wouldn't talk to them. And so they forcibly took him in a vehicle, took him across the river. I don't know where they took him to, but they took him somewhere across the river and put him out. A few weeks later, he was back in his house.
Oh, that's good.
Somewhere in that time, the Veterans Administration heard about what was going on. They stepped in and reached an agreement with the TVA that this man could stay in his house till he died.
Well, that's the only way he won out, because one government entity got involved with another.
And that house, his house, is still standing now. It's right close to the home place. It's by the Western Furnace.
Is it now?
Right at the Western Furnace, there's a road that goes up a hill.
That's what that road
and
leads
right
to.
up at the top of that hill on the left is his house. If they don't do something with it, it's going to fall in. I hope they will.
David, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Rick. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
We'll be right back on History Highway.
When my mother was in college, she danced with Confederate veterans. To me, it wasn't that far away. My father knew this. My mother knew this. Almost 50 years ago, I joined the Sons of Confederate Veterans. In those days, we weren't concerned about saving monuments or any of those things. That wasn't necessary. In fact, none of us had any remote idea that it would ever come up, or we would have done something then. We can't just sit there and react. We have to be proactive.
The Sons of Confederate Veterans is the direct heir of the United Confederate Veterans and the oldest hereditary organization for male descendants of Confederate soldiers. Organized at Richmond, Virginia in 1896, the SCV continues to serve as a historical, patriotic, and non-political organization dedicated to ensuring that a true history of the 1861 to 1865 period is preserved. Membership in the SCV is open to all male descendants of any veteran who served honorably in the Confederate Armed Forces.
Hi, I'm Rick Rebel, and I'm here today at the Jesse James Riding Stables, home of the Outlaw Cave, the hideout of Jesse James. Legend has it that Jesse and his gang hid out in this cave after robbing a stagecoach at Mammoth Cave. If you would like to visit his hideout and ride a horse over the trails where the Outlaws rode, come to the Jesse James Riding Stable at 3057 Mammoth Cave Road, Cave City, Kentucky. See you there. The number of eminent domain cases seems to be a well-kept secret, and I can understand why. But I did find this tidbit from the U.S. Department of Justice. Between 1998 and the year 2002, more than 10,000 parcels of real estate fell prey to eminent domain. Covered under the Fifth Amendment, the government can seize private property for public benefit, and the owner has no legal recourse. By law, the government has to pay you for your property based on present-day market value. The historical and sentimental value of the property has no bearing on the final assessment, and you will have to accept the outcome no matter how bitter. For the 25,000 men, women, and children who lived between the rivers, they can tell you, eminent domain will change your world forever. So the next time you go for some recreational fun at the land between the lakes, I hope you can see it just a little bit different than you did before.
My crew keeps me on the road from episode to episode, 'cause they all know I got a million stories to tell. I'm no dinosaur, it's cool to explore what makes a country great and put the crack in the Liberty Bell. So take a ride down the history highway. We're headed back to the days of old. So take a ride down the history highway. I got the pedal to the metal and I'm letting this Chevy roll. I got the pedal to the metal and I'm letting this Chevy